by praying. Heavenly Father, we praise you for this day and for this beautiful weather you've been giving us. And thank you for all that you've done for us through your son Jesus, and, dying on the cross, and just celebrated his resurrection the other day. So Father, thank you for the power of your Holy Spirit, raising him from the dead, and for your power of your Holy Spirit in each of our hearts and lives. Thank you for all here that want to make a difference in the world, and in particular Malawi, with clean water and the hope of the gospel. Father, bless them in their efforts to prepare and to fundraise and to train and everything that they need to do to go on this trip. Commit this meeting to you, Lord, and may everything be glorified to you in your son's name. Amen. Amen. Okay, so let me go grab a sheet document. I'm going to give you something to.
Sí, gracias.
That one we're going to go over first.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
Okay, so I'm going to be going over this document here. I know I could do share screen and everything, but all of you got an email, with these two documents. One's called Preparing for Your Trip to Africa, and then this one is kind of a list of vaccinations that you're going to want to consider getting, and also medications. Mostly, some of these have to do with going to Kilimanjaro and altitude sickness and stuff like that, but the rest of them are like insurance, right? In case you get a bacteria or something like that. You'll want to have some medications. My doctor always gives me a full suite of medications before I go on the trip. And he knows exactly what I take every year, just in case, right? Either a sinus infection or an intestinal infection, stuff like that. Ambien, but we'll go over that list after we go over this first document, which is called Preparing for Your Trip to Africa. Now, both of these things are on the website, right? So you all should be familiar by now with the Clean Water Climb website. And if you go to the cleanwaterclimb.net website and go to backpack, you'll see number 2 says preparing for East Africa or something like that, or preparing to go to Africa. Well, these two documents that we're going to go over today are there. So if you ever can't find my email or accidentally delete it, like I do sometimes, you can always go to the website and find all this stuff, right? So, and thanks to Bill Shannon for always updating that. I'll always find something that a typo or something I need to add, and I go, Bill, I need this uploaded. Take the other one off. So let's go over this document. I call it apply and bring and immunize, memorize, and fundraise, right? That's kind of the things that you're going to be doing, or hopefully you've already started doing. So obviously, first things first, have a valid U.S. passport that expires no sooner than 6 months before the trip ends. I know that sounds odd, but some countries will look at that and they'll go, wait a second, this thing's expiring, in a month after your trip. They don't like that for some reason. I don't understand. I mean, isn't that the purpose of an expiration date? But apparently it can be a problem. So be sure, especially if you're doing the full trip, or at least the Kilimanjaro part, we get back to the United States August 4th. Make sure your passport expires 6 months after August 4th, whatever that is. And for those just going to Malawi, obviously a few days earlier than that. On the form, there's a place to apply for a passport if you don't have one. You can, if you go to the website, you can easily, instead of having to type this in, you can just click on it, right? And actually, if you have the document from my email, you can just click on that PDF, and it'll take you there if you need it. I always put a photocopy of my passport, and when I say my passport, I mean the cover page, right? The one that has my picture and my date of birth and expiration date and so forth, passport number. I put a copy in every piece of luggage. That would be my backpack, my carry-on bag, each of my 2 check bags. So in case something ever gets lost, whose bag is this? They'll be able to figure out right away whose it is. Anyway, I just do that. Now, you could do that. You could take, well, but if the gets separated from you.
On the phone itself.
Well, no, I mean the bags get separated from you, and and you can't find it, and you want to. They don't know whose bag this is. They can look inside and say, "Oh, this is Mike Clearman," and then they'll try to run you down. That was the purpose for that. Yeah, but it's a good idea to have a copy on your phone as well. It's actually a good thing. So one of the major updates to this document was COVID. Before, year before last, 2019, I didn't have this whole section 3 called COVID travel considerations. So I do know as of April this month, masks are required on all flights, domestic and international. I think everybody knows that. And as of this month anyway, and I want to stipulate that because, stuff's always changing, right? But Malawi requires a negative PCR, which is a viral COVID test within 10 days of arrival. So you all want to make, you're all responsible for getting that PCR test within 10 days of arrival in Malawi. So I think we leave here on the 12th of July and we get to Malawi on the 14th or 13th. Does anybody remember offhand off the top? I can look it up actually right here. Let's see here. We arrive on we leave the 12th and we arrive on the 13th, the next day. So, back that up to July 3rd, right? You don't want to get the test before July 3rd, so you're going to have to gauge based on, where you live and, what's available and what kind of time frame they're going to be able to get your test back to you. But I mean, my gut feeling is if 5 days before the trip, you go get your test and you get results within, say, 48 hours max, you're going to be good, right? So this is something new. We haven't had to do this for trips in the past, but that's the information I got from Jeff Rogers, who's about to fly back to Malawi himself in a couple of weeks, and that's what he said. Within 10 days of arrival, you have to have a negative COVID test. Okay, now, for those of you, for all of us, whether we're coming back from Malawi, hey, Anna, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Anna Briones, she went to Malawi with us. Of 19, she just arrived here. Where's the kids, the grandkids?
They had another plan, so it was
Okay.
fine.
All right, okay, good. So anyway, I met Anna at Lakewood Church at a conference, M3 it was called, and she loved the whole thing that we're doing, and she was all signed up to go to Kilimanjaro along with Paul Donnelly and where's Meredith? I don't see her on there anymore, but anyway, she's probably there. Anyway, they were all signed up to go, and of course COVID hit, so now she's obviously going in 2021. Anyway, so we were just going over COVID requirements. Masks are on all the flights. Malawi requires a viral test within 10 days of arrival. So, back up from July 13th to July 3rd, right? So somewhere between the 3rd and the 12th, when we depart, you need to have the results of a COVID test. So now we're all going to be traveling back to the United States. Some of us are traveling back from Malawi because we're not going on to Kilimanjaro. Some of us are coming back from Kilimanjaro, right? So if we're coming back from Malawi, the requirements is within 1 to 3 days before travel back, have a negative PCR test. So we will do that at Child Legacy's project. They will have that available. You'll be able to get that, and it's going to be a cost of $70. So, keep that in mind that you're going to need an extra $70 for that test. And then if you have a positive test, you're going to have to stay at Child Legacy for, 10 days or whatever the quarantine is required. And then you're going to have another test, right? And when you stay at Child Legacy, obviously they're going to be feeding you and taking care of you. And so there's a $75 room and board charge per day. So factor that in, to your plans that, have some extra cash in case that happens. Now, if for some reason you spend it all on souvenirs and that happens, then you can always pay back later, right? So don't let that be a stumbling block that says, well, gee, I don't know if I want to carry $750 extra cash with me, but you can always pay it later. So anyway, don't let that prevent you from going on the trip, but I'm just letting everybody know. Now, if we're traveling back to the United States from Tanzania, we'll be able to get a PCR test in Moshi. That's the town we'll be staying in at Springlands Hotel. And Zara Tours will arrange for us at a cost of about $115 to get that test in Tanzania. And they say they have pretty good turnaround, like within, 8 hours or 10 hours. So, again, so you're gonna have to have a little extra spending money for that as well. So either way, you need spending money. And then the stay at Zara, I don't know. I think it's gonna be $40 a day for one person, right? Now, obviously, if somebody gets COVID or at least tests positive in Malawi, I'm not gonna be able to stay with you. But you're gonna be taken care of really well by Child Legacy. I mean, if anybody's seen any of the pictures of the project and the medical facility and the guest rooms and all that, you're going to be well taken care of, okay? And in Tanzania, they're going to be taking care of you. Zara will. Now, if it happens in Malawi, I have to go on with the Tanzania team, right? But if it happens in Tanzania, I will stay behind. I will stay behind until the last person, and by the time we're done hiking, you guys are probably in Malawi. If you were positive, you're going to be gone. Child Legacy is going to make sure you get to the airport and you're all quarantined and you're through the negative tests and all that kind of stuff. So, but Tanzania, I'm not gonna go home if there's anybody left in Africa anywhere, right? And if I have to, I'll fly down to Malawi after the Tanzania hike is over. So don't worry about not being taken care of either in Tanzania or Malawi. I just want to make sure you guys are clear on that. So as of this month, Tanzania has no testing requirements prior to entry. And for those of you who have come to previous meetings, you know why we made this trip the way we did it. Normally it's prairie, peak, and purpose, right? Acquisition, safari, hike, and then we go down for the purpose in Malawi. But if things are slow in Tanzania as far as getting our tests done, what if we had a big delay and then we couldn't go down to Malawi? So that's why we're going to Malawi first, and then we shouldn't have any problem going to Tanzania because they don't have that requirement. And then of course we go home from Tanzania. So anyway, hopefully Tanzania is not going to make any changes on that. So now that's the COVID thing. I just wanted to get that out of the way, make sure everybody has a clear understanding. You're going to have a cost in the United States for a test to go to Malawi. You're going to have a cost either in Tanzania or Malawi to come back to the United States. And then there's always the chance that you could end up getting stuck for 10 days.
Considerations with I really don't know. In terms of testing, I know that they won't allow them to get vaccinated.
Yeah. Well, I think you're still going to have a test.
Okay.
That's my gut feeling. I can try to jog my memory later if I forget, but I'll try to check.
I'll keep checking as well.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about other general immunizations. You all should be making an appointment with your doctor 2 to 3 months before the trip and letting them, he or she know where and when you'll be going, because that kind of determines what kind of vaccinations, right? We're going to be going during the dry season. If we were going during the wet season, especially to Malawi, you'd probably need cholera vaccination. I went a couple of years ago early, like in March or April, when we climbed Mount Malanje, and that was right in the window of the end of the rainy season. And so I went ahead and went to got a prescription, went to HEB and got the cholera test or the vaccination, but it doesn't last a long time. But anyway, that's why you want to tell your doctor, and I'm going to go over what I'm pretty sure your doctor is going to tell you, right? Based on doing this for so many years, but bring your immunization card with you. So, I always here's my passport. I always keep my immunization card inside of this envelope here. So here's my immunization card. It's a yellow card, right? And I've also got my COVID vaccination card stapled in there as well. And so everything's kind of in one place. They call it a yellow card because it's yellow, right? No, because that's what they give you if you get a yellow fever vaccination. So for those of you just going to Malawi, you do not need a yellow fever vaccination. If you're going to Tanzania, they may want to check to see if you have your yellow fever vaccination. And the nice thing about yellow fever vaccination is once you've had it, you're good for life. It's a lifetime vaccination. So if you've ever had that already for past trips to some country that has yellow fever, and it's not common in Tanzania, So let me let you know that it's not common, but I would advise getting it. I mean, we've got a Tommy here, and then Margaret's husband John have both gone with me on Kilimanjaro trips. They've already got their yellow fever, so they don't need to worry about it, for the rest of their life. So if you ever think you might go back, why not try to get it this year? And if you're going to Tanzania, yeah. And then if you, in the future, in past trips, if we went to Tanzania first, Malawi checks to see if you have a yellow card, even though they don't require it coming from the U.S. because the United States doesn't have yellow fever, right? But Tanzania does. So in that case, even though, you're getting it for Tanzania, but you're also getting it for Malawi because they want to see, oh, you came from Tanzania, they have yellow fever, you better be vaccinated. So they may hassle you at the airport. But, so anyway, just letting you know that. So now, let's see here. And so I kind of stuck this COVID thing in here because above section 3 was just testing, right? Now we're talking about, maybe you want to get the COVID vaccination. And I'm not, so whether you're or not you're an at-risk person, I wrote this up. You may want to get it considered for the following, get a vaccination for the following reasons. Hopefully avoid getting the virus, right? Number 2, you don't want to scrap your trip at the last minute because you got a positive test in the United States before you left the country. All of a sudden, man, you spend all this money, you've got your air tickets, and you have to figure out how to get refunds if you can, and so it's kind of like fire insurance, right? And then also avoid getting stuck overseas. If you're vaccinated, the chances of you getting a positive test are probably quite low, if almost nil, probably. And here's the last one. There's been talk about the United States and other countries, for that matter, may implement a COVID-19 vaccination travel passport. We don't know if it's going to happen. We don't know, if it does, when. But what if all of a sudden Tanzania says, you need to have a proof that you've been vaccinated, and you get like this little travel card, right? That shows you've been vaccinated. So I'm just throwing these things out. This is everything that I've heard so far. And these are things just to consider, right? So anyway, that's under immunizations. I mentioned first getting an appointment with your doctor, general about where you're going and when. Number 8 there was, if you're an at-risk person or not, it doesn't matter. But these are some things that mess up your trip, right? If you have the vaccination, a lot of these things are probably going to go away, and you're not going to have to worry about any of this stuff. So I'm not necessarily I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not a pro-vaxxer. I mean, I've had every vaccination, I think, known to man. I've had pneumonia, I've had shingles, everything you can think of I've had. And I never get sick, hardly ever. From these vaccinations. Yeah, I might get a sore arm. I felt a little funny after my second COVID test, but vaccination, but it wasn't bad. Okay, now, if you work for a company with a wellness program, you may be able to get some of your vaccines for free, right? It depends on what your company's insurance plan is. So I'm just throwing that out there. In 2007, so in 2007 was my first trip to Africa. I got a yellow fever shot. And then that was when they said they were good for 10 years. And so in 2017, I was going back to Africa, and I thought, okay, well, it's time to get another yellow fever shot. So I was able to get it at Kroger's, and it was completely 100% covered by my company. And then about a year later, I found out that, well, no, the CDC changed its mind, and now it's good for life. So I've had 2 yellow fever shots. I'm good for 2 lives, I guess. I don't know. So anyway, that's the yellow fever deal. Let's see. No, in Part D there, yellow fever immunization is, like I said, not required from Malawi unless you're coming from a country that has it. But once you have the yellow fever card, see, I put all my vaccinations on this card. So every time I go to the doctor for, the latest flu or whatever, everything's listed there, In fact, this is my second card. My first one's completely full. Like I said, I've had every vaccination known to man, and even some that they do on Mars, apparently. I don't know. It's a great place to store with your passport, that yellow card. All right. So let's see. And okay, So these are some options I'm listing that people have used for getting yellow fever. I think I already mentioned Kroger's. Now these are all Houston area places. So if you live out of state, like Roger in Florida, or somebody else that's coming from another part of the country, Margaret or John. John has it already. Margaret, you may already have it, but whatever, you're gonna have to find out locally where you can get it. And it's kind of in high demand, or at least it used to be. It used to be manufactured in the United States. And in 2017, when I got it at Kroger's, I went to my primary care physician first and said, we don't have any. They shut down all the manufacturing. They're reconstructing these manufacturing centers for yellow fever. And in the United States, all the yellow fever had to come in from Europe. All the vaccination, all the doses were coming in from Europe. So starting in 2017, it was really hard to get it in the United States, and you had to keep calling a lot of places. So I'm not going to go into all this list here, but this lists everything that I know of in the Houston area that previous teams have found it to be able to get it at. So you could read that on your own if you live in this area. Let's see, there's 6 places listed in this area. So things to bring with you. We're gonna talk about this separate handout on shots and medicines and stuff like that. But obviously you'll bring those kind of things, but you're going to want to bring your normal vitamins and any personal prescriptions. Just don't forget any of that kind of stuff. Pepto-Bismol, any over-the-counter kind of meds that you would need for indigestion or something that you would need for a cold, like Sudafed or Mucinex or something like that, or for sinus, any kind of, maybe you're prone to sinus infections, or maybe you're prone to upset stomach. Just so, what do you normally take at home? Make sure you bring those, right? It kind of common sense. Bring hand sanitizer, obviously more important now than ever, but it's always been on the list. And then if you have if you do have medical insurance, it's probably a good idea to bring it. I don't know how useful that would be in these countries, but I would still have your medical insurance card with you on the trip. And obviously the yellow fever card if you do have the yellow fever shot. So that's medical side. Now let's talk about the travel side. Obviously any travel documents, the itinerary. If you have a separate itinerary, like if you're flying, like in the case of Mike and Gail Clearman, they're flying into Tanzania directly. They didn't have quite the 24 days to do the full trip. And so, anybody like that's on a different itinerary than the main itinerary for the team, I need to make sure I have a copy of that. Frequent flyer numbers. I think all of you have received, and maybe some of you have already filled out the travel form that it's also on the website on cleanwaterclimb.net. It's where you give me your credit card information and all that kind of stuff for booking flights. So, there's also a place on there for your frequent flyer numbers. So if you do have frequent flyer programs, be sure to give me those in case the airlines we're using. I think Ethiopian is what we're using, most of us. They're partners with United, I think. And so you'll get, if you have a United frequent flyer program, you're going to get points on your card. So make sure you give me that kind of stuff. If you do decide to get travel insurance, and we'll talk about that at the next meeting, you'll want to travel insurance documents. And then, bring, money for souvenirs. If you want to bring cash, minor incidentals. Like if we're traveling and we're at, Saba in Ethiopia airport and you see a Starbucks and you go, I can't believe it, a Starbucks, I'm going to go get some coffee. You want to have a little extra cash for that, or credit card. I mean, I've used my credit card in every one of these airports without ever having a problem, with somebody hacking like that. So I tend to, even a lot of the bigger souvenir places take credit cards. And so if you see something you can't resist, but you don't want to spend the cash, you can use a credit card. But make sure, two things on that, and I'll probably mention it in our next meeting, but make sure your bank knows that you'll be traveling, right? Because we were driving across the United States once, and we were, buying gas, and we finally we were going to California. We got to Arizona, and we stopped at this rock shop, and I saw this really cool piece of petrified wood, and I wanted to buy it. And so I bought it, and then they said, well, my card was denied. So I had to get on the phone with the bank, and I said, this is me, and I'm buying a petrified wood in Arizona. Is that okay? Then they approved it. So, and that's just driving across the United States, where all of a sudden they go, somebody stole somebody's card, and they're using it to go across the United States. So definitely let your bank know. And that's not written right there, so I'm sorry about that. But when it comes to cash, make sure all U.S. denominations, and you shouldn't have to exchange money for any reason on this trip. Zara takes, U.S. dollars. Child Legacy does, for, if you want to buy a beer or something like that, they're going to take U.S. You don't need to change money, but make sure everything's dated 2003 or later. U.S. money before 2003 was apparently more easily counterfeited than it is now. And so sometimes you'll go to pay for something and it says 2000 on it. If the person's savvy and they check that, they may say, I can't take this. It's 2000, it's not 2003 or later. So keep that in mind when you start gathering cash to bring for souvenirs and stuff like that. And your COVID tests, right? COVID tests in Malawi, COVID tests in Tanzania. On the plane, I always make sure I have toothpaste, toothbrush, dental floss, earplugs, eye shades, noise canceling headphones. It's a long trip to go across the Atlantic Ocean, and so you'll want to try to sleep, which I always take Ambien on the flight. That's the only time I take it. Other than that, when I come home, sometimes my clock is off, so I'll take an Ambien or two for 2 or 3 nights, and then gradually wean myself off until I'm back to normal. Let's talk about clothing. Clothing should be relatively conservative, especially for women in Malawi, but, in general, too, because we represent Christ in cultures that are not the same as ours. So let's keep that in mind. So nothing tight or really short, please. In fact, women probably should, have their legs covered. I'm just telling you, from what I've seen. And even for men, long pants, you can get away with shorts, but even most of the men in Malawi, are wearing long pants all the time. Women, long pants, capris, that kind of thing. Skirt, knee length or longer for optional, and for church. So it says if we go to church, we're going to go to church, right? Every year when I plan these trips, I make sure that our last day in Malawi, unless we're going on the safari, which the Malawi group will, our last day before travel is a Sunday. So I want you to all experience what church is like in Malawi. It's quite incredible that we have a church at the project site. Anna's been there, Tommy's been there, Bill's been there, so you guys all know. So it's going to be cool at night. For even just Malawi, right? So it's we're really pretty far south of the equator, so it's winter there.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
What about sleeves? Can we wear? Can the women wear sleeveless, or does it need a sleeve?
I would say I would go with a little bit of a sleeve. I really would. Yeah. You'll see the women there are very highly dressed up, highly covered. So it's going to be like 70s in the day for the high in July. And then at night, it could drop into the 40s. So, you'll want to have a lightweight jacket for sure. And then if you're going on the Kilimanjaro, obviously you're going to have a lot more than that. But, even for Malawi, you're going to be so refreshed, right? You're going to be, for those of you from Houston or Florida, where it's humid and it's like, 90 and 90% humidity, you're going to go there and it's like 70 and like 5% humidity, right? It's going to be like heaven compared to Houston. So Bill knows, yeah. So anyway, you're going to love the temperatures there. Sun protection, obviously, sunglasses, wide brimmed hat. That probably applies a little more for Kili. It definitely applies for Kili, not as much for Malawi because, we're not climbing a mountain in Malawi. But the sun is pretty intense. So sunblock, hand lotion, lip balm, stuff like that to consider. Miscellaneous to bring. Okay. If you wear prescription glasses or, contact lenses, you want to bring extra pair, right? In case something happens, you sit on your glasses and break them and, you're out of luck, right? You're not going to be able to get them replaced there. So consider things like that. I have a pair of tennis shoes that I literally keep at Child Legacy because the soil in Malawi is full of iron, and you will get red stain on your shoes or boots, whatever it is you're wearing, and it'll almost permanently stain it. So if you have an old pair of tennis shoes or an old pair of boots, that would be good for going out to the water wells in Malawi. Camera, we're all going to be going on safaris. If you have a camera with a good telephoto, definitely bring it. You'll be so happy you did. Obviously spare batteries, rechargeable batteries, or battery charger for safari and hike. Well, you won't be able to charge your batteries. I always bring extra batteries on the hike and have extra batteries for the safari too, because you're not going to have access to recharge or get new ones until you get back to the lodge or get off the mountain. So make sure you think about that. Right. And if you're out we're out in the villages taking lots of video, you could drain your iPhone pretty quick. You might want to bring a portable battery pack, to charge up your iPhone. That's what I'm going to be bringing on Kilimanjaro is 2 or 3 portable battery packs, because I have my GPS Garmin, I have my iPhone, and I might have a couple other small devices. So I'll be charging everything up every night in the tent. Plug adapters. So you could, and I should have brought one with me. I think I talked about it at the equipment meeting, but you can get an adapter so for Tanzania, now it's not gonna be a problem for Malawi, other than on the safari. So in Malawi at the project, they have literally US plugs like we have here in this room, right? So you're gonna be able to charge anything up you want at our project. But when we go on that safari, I know they won't have US plugs there. They'll have like an English, like an East African plug. So what you'll need is an adapter that you plug into the wall, and it allows you, I think it's on the cleanwaterclimb website. I'll try to remember for our final meeting to bring it to the meeting. I'm here at Church Project, otherwise I would have had it. I just forgot to bring that. So anyway, that allows you to plug your US, prong into this device, and then it has multiple types of plugs depending on which country you're in that you push out, and then that goes in the wall, right? I find a fanny pack is extremely handy for small items throughout the trip, whether you're in Malawi or Kilimanjaro. Certainly on Kilimanjaro, you can put your snacks in there. Your phone in there, whether you're out in the villages or you're on the mountain. Flashlight, there you go. Roger, hold that up real close. Yeah, so so that actually has USB also. You can plug 2 USB.
Yeah, 2 of them.
Okay, what's the backside look like? Okay, so that's probably I think what does it say? Does that say that's for Kenya and East Africa? What does that say?
No, this is not, this is just for 110. This is standard outlet. But if you have that, then you plug this into that, and then you've got the adapters to do the charging, and you can have another one power something else.
Yeah, so you can charge 3 things at once there, but that doesn't allow you to plug into Tanzania walls or the live in Malawi. That only allows you to plug in at Child Legacy's project. So just keep that in mind. You need that adapter, and I promise I'll have it at the next. I know I covered it at our equipment meeting for those who came to the equipment meeting.
Mike, I've got one downstairs. If you're really desperate, I can go get.
Well, how long will it take? I don't want you to.
30 seconds. Keep talking.
Go get it.
And I'll go get it.
Okay, go get it. So, you might want to have a flashlight. Of course, all of our phones now have flashlight apps, so that's almost not even needed on this list anymore. Snacks. Now, when snacks obviously for the hike, but even when we're in Malawi, I would not eat in front of the villagers, right? That would be something you would eat in the car if we're driving out. If you're hungry, if you're driving out to the village, you're driving back to Child Legacy, I wouldn't do that. Now, what's not in here, and I'm going to wait. Let me wait for Paul to come back. Is there any questions by anybody else right now, based on what I've talked about here? Michelle, yes.
Yeah, well, so typically when I do like service work and I'm getting dirty,
Hi, Billy. It's okay.
props, but they are, they're athletic wear.
Yeah, okay.
So we probably need to wear loose serve clothes over
Yeah, probably.
that.
Yeah, I would
Okay,
do that.
all right. So not jeans, more like wind pants?
I mean, jeans are okay. I mean, it's gonna be, like I said, it's not that hot
Yeah,
in
true.
Malawi. So,
Okay.
you know, so jeans
Probably
might be
just spring
good.
jeans.
Yeah,
color.
yeah. Okay, Paul is gonna show his adapter. So bring it up real close, Paul, so everybody can see it. I know you guys can't see it here, but we can talk about it. So and so it has multiple prongs that you can push out.
Yeah, it has multiple prongs.
Yeah.
I figured out how to work it.
What's the brand? There we go. Yeah.
I got it off Amazon. It was pretty inexpensive.
Yeah.
This one is a,
Tommy, you know what it is.
yeah, this one is a Pika.
If you
Yeah.
can- you can-
Yeah, but there's a bunch. It's got USB.
It's got
You
USB.
got a USB-C. I don't know anything that needs that yet, but
Yeah.
one day that'll come out there.
Okay. All right.
Anyway,
What was
but
it?
it's got, you guys can see maybe, yeah, the slides here. You can pick whether you're European, British, whatever the slide's at.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead again. I couldn't hear.
Oh, sorry. If he looks at his order history and finds that item,
Yeah.
the adapter that he bought off of Amazon, he could share that link with everybody.
Yeah, if you can, did you buy that on Amazon? If you want to share that link
I'm gonna look at my orders.
to me or to the whole group, that would be great.
Mike, I'll look for it, and if I can find it, fine. If worst case, I'll send it to you.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, send to me. Okay. So I was mentioning snacks, not a good idea to eat in front of villagers, but it's also good to have them when we're traveling. Now,
Just a question, Mike.
yes,
Mike,
yes.
just a question. Do you think it'd be a good idea to bring some along to hand out?
You're going to be overwhelmed with people, and there'll be people that don't get any, and that's not good.
Right.
So we only give out stuff that we know we have plenty of, and we're going to be bringing out vitamins. We're going to be giving out vitamins at the villages, and so everybody will get one. Yeah. Good question, though. I get that a lot. Common question. So let's talk about.
What is that you were holding up though? What was that Mott snack thing?
Yeah, what was it, Roger?
Yeah, these are really good little gummies. They're vitamin C packs with, they're just gummies.
But they're vitamins.
Looks good. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but I mean, I got 100 or 200 in a box from Costco.
Okay, so normally when we're in the villages, when we're done with everything, right? We're done with the gospel, we're done with the repairs, we've given out vitamins. We're also going to give out 3 soccer balls to the chief. Okay? So the chief is going to get us 3 soccer balls, and one of them is going to be for him and his family, and then one is going to be for the women in the village, and one is going to be for the men. And the men, of course, and the boys love playing soccer. They go crazy when they see these balls come sneaking out of the truck, right? We don't ever show any of this stuff until the very end. Otherwise, they're not going to be hearing any Bible stories we tell them. I'll tell you right now, they're going to be focused on, when are we getting that? When are we getting that? And then we have Frisbees too. So we're going to give 3 balls, 3 Frisbees, and 3 Bibles.
Vitamin.
Yeah, and then we're going to give out vitamins to everybody, right? So that's going to be kind of at the end. So anyway, I'm gonna, at the next meeting, I'm gonna have these, and for those who are out of town, I will bring them to the airport. But everybody needs to be able to pack one of these, and these do not deflate. These are called One World footballs, and you cannot squeeze them. I mean, there's like foam inside them or something. So this is how much space it's going to take up. It weighs nothing, right? So it's not going to add any weight to your baggage, but it's going to take up space. So I want everybody to remember that. Be sure you have this much space in your bag. If I'm giving them to you at the airport, right, in Chicago or wherever we, Roger's leaving from Chicago, the rest of us leave from Houston, and you don't need to worry about it, Mike, because you're not going down there. So anyway, just wanted to mention that. But so the other thing is, after all that's done, we've taken lots of pictures and videos and given out all this stuff. Almost always they invite us into one of their huts for a meal. And normally I'd say, that's fine, because normally we're ending the trip in Malawi. And I'd say maybe 40% of the time I get sick because we're fixing the well, they're preparing food
40%
with water from something, you know, that's probably contaminated. And yeah, I'd say 4 out of 10 times I come back to the United States and I got bacterial infection.
skinny.
Yeah. So, but this year, and for those, so there's 2 reasons why we shouldn't do that this year. One is for those going to Kilimanjaro, I do not want anybody being sick headed off to Kilimanjaro. Okay, that's not going to be good. But if those are going back to the United States where you have lots of doctors and medicines, it's like you may feel like it's okay. But the main reason this year is we're dealing with COVID, right? And if any of us has it on us, even if we don't have any symptoms, we could end up giving it to them, right? So we want to take some extra precautions this year that we wouldn't normally. They will probably still offer us bottled sodas, literally in Malawi. That's what if you want an orange soda or a Diet Coke, or not even diet, or just regular Coke. I don't think they know what diet is in Malawi, right? So they'll offer us some sodas, which are fine, right? They're bottled, and they may offer us some biscuits, and which are prepackaged, right? So you just open it up and it's totally fine. So I just want to, as a caution, I would say we do not go into a hut. We take what they want to give us in terms of the biscuits and the Cokes and stuff like that, and we just tell them that we have very sensitive stomachs and we don't want to eat the cornmeal. So basically what they'll feed you is chicken, maybe some greens, and maybe some, encima. They call it encima. Basically they take corn, dried corn, and they crush it and make a powder, and then they boil that powder, and it looks exactly like mashed potatoes. It has absolutely no flavor at all, and it's like the staple of the country. And that's usually, it's usually eating that I might get sick. And so I would say that we want to let the crew know ahead of time that the only things we're going to eat on this trip are the Cokes and the cookies, the prepackaged cookies, kind of like what you saw when you came in over here, right? That's not in this document, but I just wanted to mention that because it's a different kind of environment that we're going in than past years, unfortunately. Plus we're going to Malawi first, and then like I said, I don't want anybody fighting bacterial infection for 8 days on Kilimanjaro. Would not be very pleasant. Okay, water. So, bring a water bottle. I mean, I'm talking about Malawi now, right? So, we can get water at Child Legacy. It's well water. Now, if you're super sensitive to well water, we might be able to buy bottled water from Child Legacy. But normally I just drink the water that comes out of the well. They filter it. I'm usually fine. Some people can be sensitive to it. It's not contaminated or anything like that. And I wouldn't, again, like the snacks, I would refrain from drinking water in front of villagers. Though I'm guilty sometimes, and I just try to hide it in the vehicle if I'm thirsty. So, I bring a small personal first aid kit, and this is really more for Kilimanjaro, moleskin, antibacterial, stuff like that you could put on a you don't want to get blisters that's more directed to Kili people. Toiletries, you might have to go when you're in the middle of the village, right? And they'll show you a place you can go, but they may not have TP. I don't know. I bring my day pack with me, obviously on the mountain, but also just in Malawi, and I always have a roll of TP in there just in case. I'm going to have my computer with me on the trip. So those of you that think that, gee, what if I get stuck here for an extra positive test? You may want to have your computer with you so you can, for those of you that have a job, that you can remotely log in and work while you're in quarantine, right? I try to download photos after the safari onto 2 external hard drives. If anybody has a camera with a chip, I'm going to try to collect everybody's photos along the way, and that way then at the end of the trip I put them all on a Google Drive and share, so everybody can have copies of pictures that other people have taken of you, right? Keep that in mind, whether it's a cell phone or or a camera. We're going to try to collect photos. It may not happen until we get back for some of us, but the more we can collect on the trip, the easier it is to get it all together before we're separated again. You know, if you want to be in communication with your family, you'll probably want to have some kind of international package on your cell phone. I have that on my, I have a Verizon account, and I have, oh, my phone's over there. I was just gonna, so I have a Verizon account, and I set up a travel thing. And once I set it up, I found out that I'm always on it. And the only time it gets charged is if I use it internationally. So I could be, if I, for 2 or 3 days, I don't use, you know, call or text, I'm not getting any charges. But if I do use it, I think it's $10, $5 or something like that. But then you can use it as many times as you want that day, and the price stays that same. So you might want to check with your provider on what options you might have, and keep the costs down as best you can. I mean, I tend to keep it in airplane mode until I can get to some place that has Wi-Fi. So it'll be in airplane mode until I get to Child Legacies Project, which has Wi-Fi, and then I'll get it out of airplane mode so it'll get the right time, right? You want the time stamp to be correct on your photos and your videos. So the best thing to do is when you're away from Wi-Fi is to put it back in airplane mode, and then you know, it's not going to change the timestamp as long as you're in the same country, right? That's not going to change. But then when we go to Tanzania, which is going to be an hour later than Malawi. So Malawi's 7 hours difference. Tanzania is 8 hours difference from the United States. You'll want to, again, put it in airplane mode, get to Tanzania, and take it out and put it in Wi-Fi for just a brief minute or two. If we can get Wi-Fi at the airport, I'm not sure we can. But you know, you'll be an hour off if you can. But once we get to the lodge, then you can turn it back onto Wi-Fi for sure and get the right timestamp. So anyway, it's just little details like that. You can tell I'm a detail person. You know, you might want to bring binoculars, but they usually have binoculars in the safari vehicles. So I'm not going to bring, I never do. But sometimes, like I said, the guide sometimes has them in the vehicle. So we're going to have a devotional guide. So this here is a guide that our pastor here at Church Project wrote in 2018 when he went to Kilimanjaro. And he's working on it again. It's based on the life of Abraham. And he's working on it again because we're going to Malawi first. So if you start reading this, you know, you're at the airport. It starts literally from the first day you're at the airport. And it talks about, you know, going to see the creatures that God's created, and then hiking the mountain, and then you go down to Malawi. Well, since we're not doing it in that order, he's going to reorder this and make it appropriate for this trip. So I just want to let you know. So anyway, I would, you know, there's places in here to write down your thoughts, your daily thoughts and your daily prayers. Maybe you want to pray for somebody on the trip, you could write that in, or you have a family member back home that you're praying for and you want to write something in. Anyway, just your daily thoughts. It's personal. It's just for you, right? But anyway, it's really cool that Jason did that for us in 2018, and we've been using it ever since.
Will you be handing that out to everyone?
Yeah, I'll be handing that out at the airport.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll get yours in Chicago. Okay. Unless I need to send something to you ahead of time, in which case I can email it to you. So we'll see. Okay. In fact, I probably will mail something to you. So as soon as they're done, it may be a while before they're done. But I'll be mailing these Bible story cards to you. You don't have these, do you? We didn't do this forever.
Yeah, I have them in Wisconsin. I don't have them here.
Okay. All right. So do you need another set?
If I could get them now, I'd love to have them now to be working on.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get them to you. All right. Small Bible or smartphone Bible app. I'm sure everybody's got the Bible app on their phones. So, you know, and you can download quite a few of the different versions. So you don't even have to have any kind of cell phone coverage, and you can look up any verse in the Bible you want, right? Could be handy for you. Credit card. You know, there are bank fees related to international transactions. So you know, if you do use your credit card over there, be aware that there'll be you know, it's not a lot, but it can add up if you spend a ton of money, right? Buying the, you know, a 10-foot giraffe that you have shipped to the United States. could be expensive. Okay, let's go into miscellaneous information.
There are credit cards that offer Euro international
Really?
fees. Yeah,
Okay.
Chase Sapphire offers that.
Chase?
Oh, the Bank of America. Yeah,
Okay,
for
so,
travelers.
you know, if you're concerned about that, check various types of visas. What are they? Do you know?
Yeah, Chase Sapphire Visa.
Used to.
Chase
Bank of America
Fire,
is
did you say?
usually-
It's the Sapphire.
Oh, Chase Sapphire. So Chase Sapphire offers a card with no international fees. That's good to know. So in Malawi, we'll be staying at Child Legacy's sustainability project. I think everybody's already seen a picture of that, or if they haven't, I'll be sure to. I have some documents for you, Billy. So at the end, I'll show you that and give you that. It's about an hour or so from Lilongwe, the capital that we fly into. The laundry service is included in your Malawi expenses at Child Legacy's project. So, you know, don't hesitate, and you'll leave your laundry at the foot of the bed every morning. And then next time you come to your room, your laundry will be gone. And maybe they brought some clean laundry back that they did for the day before. Photos, okay. Important, you know, it saves me an enormous amount of time if you set your cameras to the local time. So again, Kilimanjaro's 8 hours ahead of Houston, Malawi 7. It does help for putting things in chronological order, at the end of the trip, if we need to put together a promo video, a summary video of our trip, which we will. And I back up everybody's photos and videos to my laptop and 2 external hard drives during the course of the trip as time allows, right? If your camera memory device is anything but an SD card, bring whatever adapter you would need to put that SD card into a, SD card reader on my Mac. So anyway, you probably all know what I'm talking about. And again, I'll put everything on a Google Drive organized by team members. And if you have more than one device, like if you have a camera and a cell phone, then, I'll create 2 folders for you, one for each device or however many devices you bring. So all that is really good for promoting Child Legacy and Clean Water Climb down the road for future recruiting, right? That's my biggest job is recruiting. It's the hardest thing you can imagine to get people to go to Africa with you. There's so many people that want to go, but when it comes to pulling the plug, it's sometimes a big hurdle. And that's fine. I totally get it. And take lots of videos. Now photos, it'd be nice to have them in horizontal mode, but occasionally you need to do it in vertical, right? But for putting together a video of the trip, a summary video, like a 2-minute video, or maybe even a longer one, like a 10 or 20-minute one, we need horizontal videos. It's so much better than vertical. In fact, the person that does it for me can't even use the vertical one. So I'm just letting you know, try to do horizontal videos, whether you're hiking or in the villages or wherever, safari. We'll try to do 2 wells a day in terms of village visits. Usually the wells are not too far apart. They've identified them ahead of time, where they are. And so it's all planned out for us very well by Child Legacy. And we'll go with the crew. And the 4-man crew, and one of the guys takes lots of pictures to document for Child Legacy. We have one guy that's the kind of the pastor, and he does the hygiene teaching and the general gospel teaching. But when we're there, we're going to share these Bible stories, right? And he loves us coming to share the Bible stories for the villagers that want to listen. And let's see. So we'll gather around. Once we get there and kind of settled in, we're going to gather around this broken well, and we're going to lay hands on it, and we're going to pray for the villagers, for their health, for a successful and safe repair of that well, and that brings health back to the community, right? That's the first thing we do. And then the next thing we'll do, if the alternative water source is close, is we'll find somebody, the crew will find somebody and ask, well, where do you get your water now that this well's broken, and then we'll follow someone off into the bushes somewhere, and we'll go to the alternative water site. And then you can see literally right there what they've been using to drink and to cook with and to wash their clothes with, right? Anna knows, Tommy knows, Bill knows, been there, Jason. So we'll try to, again, two a day. And then, we're going to have a pretty good sized group going. And so it's possible that if Jeff has some projects for us to do at Child Legacy. We may split into 2 groups. And one day, maybe we'll take half the team to the villages, and then the other half will work on painting or something. And then the next day we'll flip, and then we'll take the ones that stayed at the project to do project work. We'll take them out. I want everybody to experience wells. And, but we may be able to take the whole group out. I don't know. We'll just see how many we end up with. But, if we have too many people, then you'll find there's nothing for you to do. Right. And I don't want that to happen. So anyway, we'll have several things going on at the same time. Right. So we're not stepping on each other's toe. Usually about half the people I take will be doing Bible story. Let's say we go to the first village that day, half the people will be assigned to do the 5 Bible stories. And then half will help the crew. And when I say half, I'm talking maybe like 4 people. If you have many more than 4 people, you're just going to be watching, right? And so, I mean, it's a small area, and there's only so many things you can be doing at once. But that's why I'm saying if we have we're going to have a pretty large group, and maybe part of the team would be beneficial to stay at the project one day and then flip the next day. And then we'll see how it works out. We'll see how many are the final people that go on the trip. But let's talk about Bible stories. So I would like everybody to memorize 3 of the 5 Bible stories that we share at the wells. I would like you to commit to one short one, which Jesus calms the storm, or the blind beggar, Bartimaeus is the other short one. One medium one, so you have the demon-possessed Gerasene demonic, or Nicodemus. Jesus says he must be born again. And the last one. So the last one's the longest. I'd love everybody to memorize the woman at the well story. And then one of those other, 2 of those other 4, right? So, and when we tell the stories, you want to tell them accurately, as best as you can. And like it's the greatest story of all time, which it is, right? And you want to trust that God's going to work through the proclamation of his word. So let me just give you an example of one story. I'm going to do Jesus Calms the Storm story for you right now. So you always want to bookend the story. Let me start with this. Bookend it, which means you don't make comments during the telling of the story. Like you stop and start explaining something. You never want to do that, because you're just basically proclaiming God's word, right? So you bookend it. Yes.
Are there someone translating this over
Yes. Yeah. Good question. So Billy asked if somebody was translating, and yes, they speak Chichewa, though they do. Some people know English to a certain extent. So, but we say it in English, obviously. Does anybody here know Chichewa? Anybody? No? Okay. So, maybe you do. Nicomo. Yeah. So anyway, no, yeah, we'll do it. So it slows it down. So you want to keep that in mind. Sometimes when we memorize things, we kind of rattle right through it. And then, but when we're saying it, from memory, and then you're just saying one verse and then they're translating it, you have to pause, right? But so anyway, you bookend the story, which means you always start the story by saying the following is a true story from the Word of God. And then you say the story as best as you can. And then you say, and that was a true story from the Word of God. And then you can do all the commentary you want, and you can ask questions. I love asking them, what does the story mean to you at the end? And, they're shy people. Sometimes it's like, just trying to pull something out of somebody to say something, right? But sometimes you get some that are great, and they'll start asking questions right away. And a lot of them will say, boy, it really taught me I needed to have more faith in God, So, we'll try to get them to engage with us a little bit, though it's not common for them to ask a lot of questions and that sort of thing. So let me do Jesus Calms the Storm. So the following is a true story from the Word of God. At the end of the day, Jesus said, no. At the end, I'm already mixing it up with the second one. At the end of the day, when evening had come, Jesus said, let us go across to the other side of the lake. So leaving the crowds behind them, they took Jesus with them in the boat, just as he was. A furious storm rose up. The wind and the waves were so strong that the boat was about to turn over. But Jesus was asleep on the back of the boat. His disciples went to him and they woke him up and said, Master, don't you care if we drowned? Jesus got up and he rebuked the wind and said to the waves, quiet, be still. And the wind died down and it became completely calm. And then Jesus said to his disciples, why are you so afraid? Where is your faith? disciples were terrified and said to one another, who is this man that even the wind and the waves obey him? And that's a true story from the Word of God. So it's pretty short, but it's a very powerful story. I love this story because everybody goes through storms, right? Whether it's a physical storm like that, or it's a relationship storm, it's maybe you had an injury or you're sick. There's just so many storms. Life is just full of storms constantly. And I love this story because it's such a good one to share. It's so easy. And this is the one I shared when I was doing my solo Kili last year, right? I really, going myself and not having a team allowed, 9 days of alone time with God, basically. Now, yes, I had guides and porters and cooks and all that kind of stuff, but I wasn't always walking with someone, and that's probably all I need to say, right? So God just started working on me and said, Mike, you need to share your testimony, with these guys. You've been with them for 9 years or 10 years, they know you, they trust you. You need to share your testimony. What was your life like before you became a Christian? Why did you decide to follow Jesus? And how has your life changed since you began to follow Jesus? Those are the key things. Nobody can argue with your testimony. I mean, you can argue till you're blue in the face about, evolution versus creation, but you can't prove anything. But when it comes to your test, and so people can refute you, right? They'll always come up with something that said, yeah, but I know, I read this here and blah, 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 but they cannot argue your testimony. So the end of day 2, normally we have a dining room tent, because we have a team, right? So they set up this big dining room tent, we're all in there, and it's 20 degrees warmer in there than it is outside, and that's good, right? Because it's cold outside. Well, since I was the only one, it was just me in this one tent, and it has a portico, so they brought this little table in there, and that's where I got served my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, is in my own tent. And there weren't any other bodies in there to warm the tent up. And it's starting to get cold, and I'm hearing them over there carrying on and laughing and joking and having a good time, and I'm thinking, man, they're having an awful good time over there, and I'm over here by myself. I need to go over there and check it out. So I poke my head in their tent. There's like 4 or 5 guys in there, and it's like, it's got to be 20 degrees warmer in that tent. I go, can I come in here with you guys? It's nice and warm. I can feel the heat coming out of this door, And so we just carried on for quite a while, and then I finally said to them, and they hadn't been on. This was October. They had not taken anybody on the mountain since January. So that's how long it's been since they'd had any clients because of COVID. And so I knew right away the story to tell them was Jesus Calms the Storm. I said, we're all going through this terrible storm together at once, the entire world. You guys are, we are in the United States, everybody is. Can I tell you a story about storms and Jesus? So I did. And then we started talking a little bit about Nicodemus and how Jesus said you must be born again, born of water and the Spirit. And that was pretty much how I left it. And then I was talking to our main guide the next day, and I said, Bruce, what do you think about that? Jesus, it said to Nicodemus, you must be born again. What do you think about that? And he said right away he wanted to be born again. So the guide said he wanted to be born again. He wanted to change his life. And so, gosh, that's why. And these stories, I mean, I memorized these stories from Malawi, and here I am using it now in Tanzania. And you can use it with your neighbor, right? You can use it with somebody on the plane that's, hurting. They're sharing their story or something like that, or a family member's hurting, and say, hey, can I share this story with you? I think these stories, and they all have value to them, but that's a great first one to kind of get your foot in the door, I guess you might say, with sharing your testimony, right? So anyway, that's Jesus Calms the Storm. And so I have these Bible story cards. One of my volunteers, Bill's a volunteer here, but I have one that her name's Kelsey, and she went on the trip in 2015. She used to work for Southwestern Energy. That's where I met her when I used to work there. She got married, started a family, moved to Austin, so she's no longer in this area. But every year she makes up the Bible story cards. I don't know if you guys can see it for me, and all 5 of them are on here. And so they're like little, and so you can use these to memorize these stories, right? So Jesus Calms the Storm, in the order that we generally do them, is Jesus Calms a Storm, which is basically just, both sides, right? And then the demon possessed Gerasene is, 4.5 pages. So that's a medium length one. Jesus and the Blind Beggar, that's again, there's 2 sides, Nicodemus is a little longer. And then the Woman at the Well is the longest. So what I'd like you all to do, if you don't have these cards, I mean, you still have your cards?
I'm not sure. I've got to check my bag. You asked me to.
Okay.
If we don't have enough, I can wait.
Okay. No, I'm just going to take it. I think we have enough for today. Do you have your cards still?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Dylan, let me give one to you. I'm the rookie. Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, are you? Okay.
Yeah. So there you go.
There's no pictures.
You want so she's I couldn't believe it though. I've given out so many of these cards that so the rest of you, please email me right away. I know some of you have gone on the trip before, but for those of you who haven't, email me so I know who to send these to, and I'll get them in the mail this coming week. Okay. And if I don't have enough, she's already making some more. I couldn't believe it. When I went to look for these things, I thought I had maybe like 30 of them left, but I've given out so many of these for all the teams the last 2 or 3 years. So I emailed her and she's making a ton more. So we'll have enough. And we may even have enough for everybody here, because I know some people have them. And, if you find your other ones, maybe get them.
One to Tanner.
Yeah, give one to Tanner. There you go. Okay. So, we're going to be Bible storing, we're going to be repairing wells, and then we're going to need at least a couple people walking around taking pictures and videos, right? And so, that's probably right there, at least 12 to 14 people. And so, again, it'd be nice to have everybody, but then if it's too many people, it's not going to be as meaningful to you guys. But we'll see. Okay, I'm still processing and thinking, and I want to see, what the final number is actually going to be, and what the needs might be at Child Legacy. So anyway, so let's continue on with village visits here. It says village visits continued, okay? So we want the kids to be distracted from the well repair for their safety. We don't want them over, right there surrounding the well. We want them to hear the gospel story through the Bible stories we're going to be sharing. So I tend to tell people, try to avoid taking videos and photos while we're sharing Christ. But if you can do it discreetly, because I'm telling you, as soon as they see a camera, man, their eyes are like, they big smiles, and they're totally not hearing anything that's going on, right? So usually the crew will put us in a position that when I'm, when we're telling a story to them, I can see the well being repaired over there, and their backs are to the well. So that's one distraction that we're going to try to keep away from them, is watching the well repair, right? And then the other distraction is if too many people are taking pictures, we definitely need to have somebody taking pictures of the well repair and videos there. But if you can discreetly take pictures without them noticing too much during the Bible story time, that's great too. And then at the end of the Bible story time, well, okay, let me see here. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Well, yeah, I think I already mentioned we're going to give out soccer balls and the Frisbees at the end. We'll need at least a couple people demonstrating a Frisbee. They all know what soccer balls are. So I think I mentioned earlier that, the boys are going to be kicking it around right away and they're going to go nuts. But the women and the ladies and the young girls, they play netball. So they're throwing the ball up in the air. So netball, try to imagine basketball without bouncing the ball. And they're throwing the ball back and forth to each other until they finally get to the net. Now, unfortunately, 9 out of 10 villages don't have a stick with a net on it. But every once in a while, we run into one that actually has a stick with a net, and eventually they're going to try to get that ball in there. But it's like they're playing keep away. Just think about keep away. And I don't know how they figure out who's on what team, but women, we figured this out a few years ago that the women were doing something completely different to the men, and they really wanted a ball also. We were just giving them out, and the boys were all getting them, right? And then when we figured out that they wanted to play something else with these balls called netball, then that's why we made sure that the women get one also. And they're very happy about that. Okay. So again, 2 people will demonstrate. Frisbees, on the other hand, 9 times out of 10, they've never seen a Frisbee before. and they'll have it upside down. They'll throw it like this instead of like this. You know, they have no idea how to throw this thing. You know, and so I need at least a couple people training them how to throw a Frisbee at the end, right? So keep that in mind.
By the way, that was hard to stop, throwing the Frisbee to him. We're having so much fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And if you feel like you want to play with the boys or the girls with the netball or the soccer, just jump in. I mean, we've done some villages where for 20 minutes, our entire team was playing soccer with these guys. They were just going back and forth in this field. There was no organization to it at all. I had no idea how they were keeping track of anything. But everybody was having a blast, right? So we'll give out the, and then we'll also, so the idea behind the three, again, chief, the boys and the men, the girls and the women, you know, each get something. And the same thing goes with the Frisbees, and the same thing goes with the Bibles. So we'll hand out CWC Bibles, so it's a Bible in their language. And the chief will get one for him and his family, and then we'll ask him to make sure one of the women leaders in the village has one to share with the other women, and the same thing with the men, one of the men leaders in the village. And then show them where in the New Testament they can find these 5 stories. We just, and maybe I'm going to bring some little stickies with us to Malawi when we get there, and we can find those 5 stories and put some stickies, you know, yellow stickies, so that they can immediately go to those 5 stories if they want to look at them again, right? So we want to explain to them where they can find those 5 stories. So near the end of the village visit, then we'll give out the vitamins. You know, we'll probably need at least 4 people to do that. So again, take lots of pictures. Yeah, let's see here. Oh, in 2014, you know, so we're taking this old pipe out of the well. It's PVC, and you have to cut it as you take it out because it's all glued together. And, you know, that's part of one of the things we're going to replace. Sometimes the PVC has a hole worn in it from the rods going up and down. But anyway, so then that PVC we just leave with the villagers. Well, in 2014, we had somebody on the team that said, we should play limbo with the kids. So, oh my gosh, do they love limbo? And they've never ever heard of limbo. And so one of us will demonstrate how to do limbo, right? And I usually jump in there and try to do it if my neck feels okay. And then they just go through, and it would never end unless you left, right? So anyway, they now have this new game called Limbo to play, and they absolutely love it. Okay, so somebody came up with that idea in 2014, and we've done it ever since. And let's see here. So after the wells are paired and the Bible story is completed, we'll do a call to follow Christ at the end of the Bible story. And so I'll tell the pastor, I said, you know, ask them now if anybody wants to follow Christ today or rededicate their lives today, if they would mind getting on their knees with me or whoever wants to lead the prayer at that particular village, and we'll raise our hands and we'll pray. And so, you know, think of a simple prayer to accept Christ as your Lord and Savior. And then, and I always tell them, you know, have them repeat it back to me in their language. So I say something, I say a prayer, you know, one line, he says it in CWC, and then, you know, I'm hearing them say the prayer back. I love hearing them say the prayer back. And then we go on to the second, you know, line. So, you know, I always start out with, God, thank you for loving me so much. You know, I mean, you all know what it is to pray to God and accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. So just think about a simple way. And if you don't feel comfortable doing it, that's fine. I'm happy to do it. But those of you who feel comfortable that want to lead this group of people to accept Christ, I'd love for you to do that. So anyway, after all that is done, you know, and then that's when they have their eyes closed and their hands raised. And that's when I'd love the photographers to take some videos and pictures to document that, you know, because it's so powerful to see that. And I've been to 75 well repairs, and it happened. It's the same every time. Nobody ever, you know, there's never been a case where nobody wanted to follow Christ or rededicate their life to Christ. Never. In 75 well repairs. So they're hungry for not just clean water, but they're hungry for living water as well. So
I have a question.
Yes, please.
When you go back, are those same people as convicted as they were when you left?
It's hard to know because we don't generally go back, you know.
To the same villages, you mean?
Well, it's rare because, you know, we're on to the next village that doesn't have any.
No, I'm talking about the next trip.
Oh,
Do you see the person the next year that you saw?
no, we'll go to completely different villages
Okay.
every year. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we've only been to, I only know of one time when I went back to the same village because they had this giant mango tree growing right next to the well. You know which one it was. That was 2019. And I'm thinking, I've been to this village before. It looked familiar. And it's this huge mango tree and the roots were strangling the wellbore. And, you know, you couldn't pump it anymore. The roots had invaded. And so we told them, you know, look, you know, we can't keep coming out here every few months to fix this well because it was happening. Like we had fixed it like 5 years ago. And literally the next year, apparently it broke again because of these mango roots. We told them, I said, you know, you've got to tell them to cut this tree down because, you know, the tree is great, but just plant another one someplace else, you know? And so that way your well is going to last a lot longer. So, you know, if we had infinite resources, you know, maybe we'd go out and cut the tree down and we'd plant another one for them. But, you know, there's just so much time and money, really, resources to, you know, you'd like to be able to do it better, but you can't always, right? Anyway.
Oh, so Mike, just a question on that. Is there no hierarchy in Malawi that could do any follow-up with any of these places?
We're trying to do, you know, follow up within the catchment area of Child Legacy, but I know of nobody that does.
The government.
Well, the government isn't into the gospel. I mean, that's what you're talking about, the gospel, or are you talking about something?
Right. Yeah, further teaching and.
Yeah. Not that I know of.
That's kind of what Joe Vito's
Who? Oh, Joe Vito. Yeah. I don't know that he goes back to the same villages though.
But that was my question.
I think he just goes back to, he just drills another well in another village and shares the
disciples.
I guess we just played training.
he's doing some training.
The training that he's trying to do.
Oh, I take it back. Also, Woods Edge Church is a church here in the Woodlands that had been working in Malawi for a long, long time, and they've been doing pastor and chief training, discipling, and so that they can lead their people. And so they are doing that in Malawi, but they have their own plan, right? And you know, we have fixed 4,700 wells, and you know, how do you figure out, well, which one do you go back to? I mean, that it really, if Child Legacy had a ton of money coming in, I mean, we would form that team that you're talking about to go follow up. I know we would. We just don't have it. We just don't have the resources. But that's certainly something, if God ever feels, I mean, if somebody ever feels that that's what God's calling them to do, raise support and go over there and do that. But Woods Edge, we're doing this disciple training and with pastors and chiefs. Well, they discovered after doing this for several years that there really weren't that many pastors in these villages, but every village has a chief. So they decided to focus their efforts and their resources on just the chiefs, right? And if they can convince the chiefs to accept Christ and how important it is, then they become the disciplers of their village. And so they literally went out, they found somebody or a group of people to design these oral Bibles, right? So they're some kind of like, maybe they look like a boom box, I don't know. But they needed to be more powerful than anything that was available on the market. I mean, there's some of this stuff's on the market, but they wanted something that at least 100 people could hear at one time. And so they had the design, and they just now got, within the last few weeks, 100 of these, and they're going to test them. And they had a pastor from Malawi. They brought him over here to record all this stuff at a recording studio up here in Conroe. Charles Sukaluza, who did that, and they brought him here several times for this project. So it's all recorded, it's all ready to go, and they're supposed to give me one to test it myself here pretty soon. But so their focus now is training the chiefs, and it's not necessarily going to be a chief that we fixed a water well at, but it might. But they approached us here recently and said, you know, some of these chiefs that were discipling and teaching how to disciple their people, need water. Their wells are broken. So they came to me and said, we want to donate $15,000 to fix 12 wells. And so they've already made the first installment, and we will probably, us here that are going to Malawi, be repairing some of those very wells where Woods Edge Church is doing ministry. So I forgot about that. That's a great question. So I know that Woods Edge is working in Malawi. So anyway.
How many wells will we be doing?
Well, we'll try to do 2 a day, and we have 3 days devoted to this. So 6 would be ideal. Now, if we can knock out 3 in 1 day, that'd be great too. One of the things we noticed with the first 4 wells that are going to be done for Woods Edge Chiefs is they're kind of far apart, and so that logistically makes it a little harder to knock out. Certainly more than 2 a day would be really hard. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know. That's a great question, and thanks for jogging my memory with what Woods Edge is doing.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
I thought part of the $1,250, to sponsor a well,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that included kind of maintenance.
Well, the maintenance is really done by the villagers. So we leave them some tools. That's part of that $1,250. And we teach them what we can in terms of basic maintenance. Yeah.
Okay.
Good question.
Because on the well report, right, that individuals get, because I have some folks that are going to sponsor, a whole well. I thought they get that report every year, right?
Well, no, they just get it for that one repair, that one time.
Oh, okay. I thought they get like an annual update. So.
No, yeah, I mean, we don't have, like I said, we don't have the resources and anything to go back and visit these places. Our goal is really to get as many people clean water and exposed to the gospel as possible with the resources we've got. Okay. Okay, I mentioned there's a chance to do some project work, and we'll have that rest day on the Sunday, and please wear nicer clothes to church. And we're on the last page if you're following along on this document. And so, obviously Jeff Rogers, Child Legacy co-founder, will be with us in Malawi. I can tell you that he loves Jif creamy peanut butter and Oreo cookies. That's just a little side note there. So now CLI might email me a list of some things to bring in our suitcases, and I'll have to tell them we're going to be, especially for those of us going on to Kili, we're going to be pretty bogged down with our equipment. But for those just going to Malawi, you're not going to have nearly the stuff that we're carrying. So you might be able to, you're allowed 2 suitcases, 50 pounds, right? And so unless you think you're going to have more than 100 pounds of clothes, I don't think you will if you're just going to Malawi. You should be able to take a few things. Now, I know I'm not saying they will ask if we can bring the stuff, but they may. So again, if you're just going to Malawi, be aware that you might be asked to I've had to turn them down several times because you normally go to Tanzania first, right? And so we're solid. But since we're going to Malawi, we may have room for a few things. As a general rule, I would not give out your email or phone number, your email address or phone number to people we meet to ask for it, because you could end up getting pestered for the rest of your life. I'm just telling you this, but you're gonna have to use your best judgment on that. I went, I don't know, it was southern Malawi on the hike of that mountain in Malawi, and of course, immediately after I got back, because the guy's mother was in the hospital, but I've had that same exact claim by I don't know how many people from either Tanzania or Malawi. I think it's a common attempt to extract money, and so you just have to be a little bit careful about that. It's better to connect maybe just through Facebook than through email and your phone number. Anyway, I mentioned everybody brings a soccer ball, also probably a Frisbee. And sometimes, you'll be warned about taking pictures if there's military installations along the road or police checkpoints on various times we're on the road. You don't want to take photos inside of airports or, certainly some airports, or police along the road or military along the roadside. I know in Tanzania, as we head towards Ngorongoro Crater, there's a big military installation, and the guide will almost always tell us, now don't take any pictures for the next 10 minutes. So it's things not to bring. How are we doing on time? 3:30. Good. I'm actually going to end in time, I think, for a change. You don't need to bring traveler's checks. Whatever you do, don't bring any expensive jewelry or jewelry that looks expensive, right? Flashy jewelry could be a target. We've never ever had an issue, but traveler's checks really aren't going to do anything for you. Insect repellent, we will see some mosquitoes in Tanzania. I mean, in Malawi, but Tanzania, Springlands Hotel. So Malawi is going to be about 4,000 feet elevation, whereas when we're at Springlands Hotel in Tanzania, it's like 2,500, 2,800. There's definitely more mosquitoes there. And we've had some people, nobody's ever gotten malaria because everybody takes their malaria pills, which we'll talk about next. But we've had people that just got eaten alive by mosquitoes at Springlands Hotel. They're just everywhere, right? There were some years than others, and some years are not bad at all. But I would tend to want to wear long pants and long sleeve shirts in Moshi, Tanzania, to avoid most of the mosquitoes. You won't see any mosquitoes on Kilimanjaro. You won't see any mosquitoes at Ngorongoro Crater, too high. But anyway, Malawi, a little bit of chance, and Moshi, a lot more of a chance. I don't think I'd bring an ATM card. I've never used one on one of these trips. Like I said, most places take US cash or credit card. And so that's for all travelers. For just Tanzania travelers, there is a swimming pool at Zara, but in July it's going to be quite cold. And so, unless you want to jump in and, get cold, don't bring a swimming suit. Passport on the mountain. We will have a safe deposit box at Zara that we use, and we'll put all of our passports in there. Again, you'll have a picture of yours for whatever reason that it's needed in there. You'll have a picture in your backpack, so you don't need to worry about bringing your actual passport. You don't want to lose it. So any extra cash that you don't want to bring on the mountain, and what I'm going to do when we get off the mountain, we're going to stop at Kijiji artisan place, okay, and so that they can buy some souvenirs there. We're probably going to have a meal there. You may, if you have your credit card with you, just make sure it's well secured on your pack on the trip. But then you could buy something with a credit card at the end, because we're not going to go to Moshi right away, to Springlands Hotel right away. So if you want to have some cash, just make sure it's with you and secure all the time. And the guides will tell us that too. Just don't make anything obvious to any of the employees that are on the hike. Because sometimes they'll pick up some people that they need extra hands and they don't maybe know them very well. And so just as a security thing, keep that well secured. Luggage. I will bring 2 check bags, one carry-on and one personal roller bag type bag. So obviously I'll keep all my, any extra camera lenses and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to check anything. You don't want to check anything that it would be a disaster if your bag got lost, right? So medications, all my medications, all my external hard drives, my computer, all that kind of stuff, goes in either my day pack or my carry-on. Now, sometimes the airlines are funny about all that stuff, and they'll actually want to weigh your carry-on and your day pack, and you'll end up in a big argument with them because you'll tell them that you have all this expensive stuff in there, and your money. You don't want to put your money in your check bag. It's going to be gone for sure. We had somebody that came back from the trip in 2016, and he wasn't thinking, and he put his camera in one of his outside pockets of his check bag. It was long gone when he got to the United States.
Oopsies.
What?
Oopsies.
Yeah, oopsies. So anyway, be thinking about stuff like that. But anyway, I think in economy, you're allowed 50 pounds of weight. That's pretty much the industry standard. Now, when I went to Kilimanjaro last October by myself from an empty waiting area, I mean, there's hardly anybody on this KLM flight. They didn't say anything about my they didn't weigh anything. They didn't care. They were happy to have me on the flight, you know, and it may still be like that. And
That was COVID time.
What?
That was COVID time.
Yeah, it was COVID time, and you know, things are
You,
things are dropping a lot, you know, right now in terms of COVID. It's really going away in the United States anyway, and some countries are still suffering pretty bad. But anyway, you might want to check Ethiopian, or in the case of Mike going on Qatar, what their weight limits for the carry-on stuff is. And my roller bag, just by itself, I think one year we went, you know, like 2018 or something, and boy, or 17, Qatar was being really picky, and you couldn't have a carry-on that weighed more than 15 pounds. And so I weighed my carry-on with nothing in it. It was 7. And so that year I went and bought some super lightweight thing that had no rollers. It was something I carried around with me, and it only weighed like a pound, right? So I gained 6 pounds just by having an alternative like that, because roller bags, you know, can be pretty thick, and wheels and everything. So you might want to be thinking about that a little bit. I don't think they're going to hassle us that much. I mean, especially if you show them, hey, I'm not going to put my camera equipment in, or my hard drive or my computer in my check bag, you know, and they're not going to, they may charge you a little extra possibly, or they're just going to say, forget it, don't worry about it, you know. That's the hope. You never know, because just, you know, every airline's different. They have different agents all the time. One year it's like free sailing, and next year it's like, you know, you're doing exactly the same thing and they hassle you, right? So there's not anything you can do about it. You can't predict. So when we get to, for those going on to Kilimanjaro, when we get to Kilimanjaro Airport, you know, Mike and Gail will already be there the day before. But for those of us arriving there, make sure you take everything out of your check bags that you want in your carry-on. You don't want to bring your check bags all the way to Gold Crater and back, right? Zara's going to take our check bags back to the hotel and lock it up in a locker for us. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. Just have what you need for, you know, 3 nights on a safari. Yeah, the last item there again is about being, sometimes they're picky about weights of carry-ons, right? So, and just bring extra cash in case. So, okay, that's all I want to say about that document. I want to next talk about vaccines and medications. But is there any questions about anything I went over? Like, you know, what we're going to do in the villages, clothing, any of the stuff
I gotta tell you, I have to leave right at 4:30 with my dogs.
Okay.
Just let you know. But I'm sure we've got, what, 2 months to ask more questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I have a question.
Yes.
What are some of the most significant cultural sensitivities or taboos? Like, you know, sometimes pointing is seen as very rude, or making extended eye contact is seen as very aggressive in some countries. Those kind of.
You know, I've never really, I mean, Jason, you want to comment about that?
Sure.
Because
extended eye contact.
What?
Extended eye contact is certainly one.
It's certainly one, okay.
Your left hand in Tanzania, I'm not sure if they're about Malawi, but Tanzania.
Touch me
Don't use your left hand for anything.
Yeah, don't hand over money or anything like that with your left hand.
Okay, so yeah, you're breaking up, Mel. You're breaking up, Melanie. I can't hear you.
I can hear you now. It was breaking up. Sorry.
Okay. Jason Pierce just said that don't use your left hand for anything, handing money or touching anything, and extended eye contact is considered not good.
And then for women, you talked about dress.
Yeah.
Particularly the backs of your legs. Try to keep the backs of your legs covered.
Keep the backs of your legs covered for women, especially.
Shoulders.
And shoulders.
Yeah. And then I was just going to throw in kind of actually on the same subject too, when you're taking pictures.
Yeah.
If you're in Malawi or in Tanzania, just be sensitive to people.
Yeah.
I had a friend in Tanzania. We were doing some ministry together, and I was taking pictures. He thought I was going to take those pictures and show them to all of my American friends so that they could laugh at how they lived.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, there's a whole other level.
Yeah.
There. You gotta remember the people.
Yeah.
That deserve privacy and respect.
Right.
You know, they were just shocked at how people are living, you know.
Yeah.
And then also, if you do just take pictures of people, you might get charged. There's some pretty.
Oh, yeah. That's happened a couple of times. Yeah, that happened to me in Kenya once. There was a guy all dressed up in really fancy Maasai outfit. And he wanted us to take a picture for $2 or something like that. Yeah. We don't ever see that in Malawi or anywhere in Tanzania. In fact, I mean, we've never had any trouble taking pictures or videos in any villages or schools.
I just read in an article on Malawi, and one of the first things it says, the friendliest country in Southeast Africa.
Yeah.
It's called the warm heart of Africa.
Oh, is that right?
Malawi is
Yeah.
called the warm heart of Africa.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk quickly about this thing. I also emailed that this morning to you. Immunizations. I already talked about yellow fever. You don't need it if you're not going to Tanzania, but it can be hard to get. So be starting to look for that if you are going to Tanzania and you haven't had it, but it is good for life. Typhoid. I'm sure your doctor is going to recommend that. The shot is good for 2 years. I think I need one. I didn't have one last year. Hep A and Hep B, 2 shots of Hep A and you're good for life, and 3 shots of Hep B, you're good for life. And generally they give them 6 months apart, but that doesn't mean if you haven't had them and you think you should get them, or your doctor thinks, that doesn't mean you shouldn't get your first one. Get your first one and you're good for 6 months, and then you get your second one, right? And then you're good for life on the Hep A. Same thing applies with Hep B. So you might want to start the series if you've never had them.
But is necessary? They are needed?
Well, did you have them last year? I mean, 2019, did you have those shots?
I just have the yellow fever, but
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah.
It's not required to get in,
To
though.
take any vaccines.
What's that?
They're not required to get in.
I don't, no, they're
It's
they're
just
not
a
required to get
protection.
in. It's just more for your own
Yeah.
health, and if your doctor
know.
thinks you should get them, then yeah.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
between you and your doctor. I've had all this stuff on this list. Diphtheria, DPT, that's diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus, however you say it. That's usually something everybody gets a booster every 10 years, especially tetanus. You know, if you haven't had one for 10 years, you probably should get that, because if you get a little cut or something, a rusty nail or whatever, then you could get tetanus. You know, that's pretty common knowledge. MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, usually recommended every 10 years, a booster. Now, malaria, I would go with the Malarone. There's 3 choices there. I've used Malarone on all my trips, and it's 1 pill a day. I usually take it with dinner, and you start 48 hours before arrival in country that has malaria. So that would mean, and we'll figure it out exactly, you know, it's a 7-hour time difference, so we have to calculate that in, but what does that mean in terms of, you know, what time usually I start taking it at lunch when I'm in the United States, and then when I get to Africa, I'm taking it at dinner time. So that's the way it usually works out. So like if I take an early lunch, like 11 o'clock, then 7 hours later is what, 6 o'clock or something like that. So it works out fine to do it that way. So lunchtime in the US is the same as dinner time in Tanzania or Malawi. So, and then you take it 1 a day on the trip, and then you take it 7 days consecutively when you get back. And your doctor's going to know all that, but just remind him if he doesn't. Again, and the next section here is for Kili only, Diamox. I have a ton of it. You don't need to get any. I will have it. It's for altitude headaches. And then Zofran is for nausea, altitude nausea. So I don't have extra of that, so I will need to get some actually. You know, if you have an asthma condition, you know, you all know what you probably need for that, but I put down here cortisone inhaler. That's been something I think I used 1 year when I thought I had asthma, but I don't think I really ended up having it. Now, so, you know, those are backup things. Again, I have enough Diamox for everybody on the hike, so don't worry about that one, but get some of those. Yes.
Can I ask you a question about the Diamox?
Yes.
I mean, we never even really addressed it at going to the Everest thing, and I probably should have taken some. It probably would have helped.
Well, we talked about it at one of our meetings.
Yeah, I do, and now it's a little fuzzy.
Okay.
Do you take it no matter how you feel?
No.
Or just only if you feel?
Yeah, if I feel a headache coming on and I know for sure it's not due to the sun, I'll start taking some.
Like one a day, or?
Well, when I first started doing this hike, I was so paranoid about headaches because of my experience on Mount Whitney 30 years ago that I was taking it like the day before the hike even started. And and then as the years went by, I started realizing I didn't need to do that. And I started taking it later and later in the hike. In fact, one year, the year I did it 3 times, 2018, on the 3rd hike, I never took it at all on the entire trip. So I think I was just really well acclimated that year. And it has a lot to do with being acclimated, right? It depends on how much water you're drinking and stuff like that. So I mean, if you're, it's not going to hurt you. If you're concerned about it, you could start taking a low dose, the very first day, and just take it throughout the trip.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And then for bacterias and parasites and stuff like that, I always bring Cipro, and Flagyl is more for parasites. Cipro is more for bacterial infections. Upper respiratory infection. I've had a couple sinus infections on Mount Kilimanjaro. That was miserable, let me tell you. And one time it was definitely started before the hike even. And before I even got to Tanzania, it started. And so there's 2 medicines there. You got the doxycycline, and then you have the amoxiclav, more for sinuses. But these are 4 things that I'll be taking with me on the trip. Again, it's for insurance, right? I hope I don't get any of this stuff. I usually don't, but except in Malawi, if I eat the food that they serve in the villages from the bad water. Ambien is really handy if you want to get some sleep on the plane, which I highly recommend you try to get some sleep on the plane. Otherwise, you'll be a zombie for a day and a half, and you don't want that.
Do you need prescription for the Ambien? Yes,
that's a prescription medication. Yeah. And then you got your normal over-the-counter medications, right? I mean, you all know, you can look at the list there and you decide, yeah, probably wouldn't be a bad idea to bring this, this, and this, So you can just take a look at that on your own. Don't require prescriptions. And then, if you want to get a physical, for the hike, especially if you're concerned about it, get an annual physical. I just got one and my cholesterol's high. And, I've tried to do keto for a couple of years, but I haven't been very religious about it. And so, and then eating 3 eggs a day, sometimes not a good thing for cholesterol. So I've cut back on I've been watching my cholesterol count to see if it makes a difference. And in 2 months, I'm going to get my blood work done again. But, annual physicals will point things out like that you may, I never had high cholesterol until 2 years, maybe 1.5 years ago, I started having higher than what would be considered the normal range. And so it could be age and genetics, or it could be I've been just eating too much, meats and eggs and stuff like that. And so we're going to see if it makes a difference to back off on that stuff. Those last 2 things are for the hikers, very optional. You can find out what your lung function is and stuff like that, percent total blood volume. I haven't done that for years. I don't think I'd worry about it too much, unless you think you have a problem. I think an annual physical is a good idea if you're going to go on the hike. So kind of reminders, make your appointments with your doctor, bring a list of your immunizations to your appointments, see if you can find those, and then see if anything's needed for this particular trip during this particular time window. Again, what countries you're going to be in and when. And he or she will probably go to the CDC site. You can do that yourself ahead of time if you want, and check what they recommend for each country and during July, right? So anyway, that's it. Any questions on the medicines? Okay.
Question back on clothes, Mike.
What?
Back on the clothes, or maybe Jason can answer it. What about open-toed shoes for women? Or do you think it'll be cool enough to just wear tennis shoes or something? It's going to be dangerous at the well to do that. I would want to protect my feet, so I wouldn't wear open.
If you're hanging out the lodge.
Open toes.
In the lodge or something like that. That'd be fine. Yeah.
I was gonna bring like my Chacos, if you know what those are. Would those be
what
fun?
Chacos are. I don't think I have any.
Oh, I got them. They're like the greatest shoes I've ever owned.
She's talking about on the mountain, or is she talking about Malawi?
I don't know if she's gonna run and get them. She didn't say.
I took my Chacos to Kilimanjaro.
What are they?
They're sandals, and I never did.
Oh, well, you don't want to hike in those, but you could go to church. You could go to church in those.
Well, let me check, because I don't know what.
Oh, these are Chacos? Oh.
Basically.
Those are.
Okay, can you show them again, Meredith?
What?
Can you show those again?
Yeah, so I have Chacos ones with like the toe part, so they really secure your foot. I was saying I did a like Rio Grande trip, so we were partially hiking, carrying the canoes, and mostly canoeing. And like these are the only shoes I brought. Wore them all 8 days.
Well,
yeah.
On the mountain, I'd be wearing boots.
Oh yeah, sure on the mountain. But,
yeah. But I think like somebody said, you know, in the lodge or at Child Legacy's project, you could wear them, but I wouldn't wear them out to the villages just because, you know, you could stub your toe or something like that. Any other questions?
Today, I was just curious about painted toes. Like sometimes cultures see women with painted toes mean certain something. So I was just curious if that does there.
Jason, any comments on painted toes?
We're going to the clear code.
I've never done it.
No, Jason's never done it. You know, I don't think, again, you know, when you're out in the villages, they're not going to see your toes because you're going to have either tennis shoes or boots on. They're not going to see your toes on the mountain, though they wouldn't care. I don't think there.
What about us?
What?
We're going to see them.
Yeah, we're gonna see your toes. They better be a nice color.
Be sure to clip them before you.
You know, it shouldn't be a problem because I think, you know, where that would be is where you'd have those kind of sandal things on is going to be. I mean, what about in church or something like that?
It's perfect for church.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine for church. Jason said.
Okay. Some conservative cultures look negatively on it, so I was just curious. Okay.
Okay. Good question.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Margaret?
I have a question. John and I are both left-handed. So what would you recommend?
You got two left-handed people. You can't go. No.
Denied.
Well, you'll be ambidextrous by the time the trip's over.
Actually, you have 3 left-handed people going.
Oh boy. Okay, Judy. I don't know. Just I don't know.
We'll be praying for you.
I would just tell them not to give a receipt.
Okay, yeah,
That's the biggest thing. If they're eating using a fork, you know.
Yeah, if you're eating, Jason said, if you're eating with a fork with your left hand, shouldn't be a problem. But if you're going to hand somebody something, maybe use your other hand.
You can start practicing.
Yeah, but start practicing. Yeah, you got 3 or 4 months here.
It's good for the brain also.
Yeah.
See, there we are getting discriminated against.
What did she say?
She said we're being discriminated against.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'll tell you what, as a consolation, I'll try to find some left-handed scissors for you as a gift.
I have several pairs of those.
It's because it's considered dirty and used.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Whoever had practiced now.
Whoever's talking.
It's a good idea.
They've got Comcast.
What did you say?
It's because it's considered, the left hand's considered. For
They use it to clean
Yeah.
their.
Documentaries, yeah.
Right, yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. So try to use your right hand for exchanging money and stuff and taking receipts from people.
There's a lot of leftist conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
It's going to be like that.
Oh, Lord.
What's
Couldn't help that.
Bad joke.
Okay, if that's.
I have one more question.
Yes.
On the drugs, the anti-intestinal disorder drugs.
Yes.
Do you feel like we all need to get our own prescriptions for these, or would we would you be able to be the pharmacist and we could pay you for?
They're not going to give me that much. They're not going to give me enough for the whole team, right? If everybody gets sick.
Right.
Yeah, no, everybody needs to be responsible for that themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question.
Good try.
Now you have to go, right?
I do. Yeah.
Can I give you? Okay, I'm going to say goodbye. And let me just close us in prayer really quick, and then I have to do something with Billy here before he has to take off. Heavenly Father, thank you for everybody logging in or showing up here live. And Father, we just appreciate the opportunity to serve you through Child Legacy, and bless all of our efforts, Lord. And Father, that not only would we be helping the people of Malawi, but you would change us on this trip. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
All right. God bless you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay. And there we go. Okay, so I need to talk with Billy really quick because he's got to take off. You stay there.
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Been about a month, I think.
I'm sorry?
Been about a month.
Yeah.
Before
Yeah.
our last meeting.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
And before I forget, this is from 2020, your fundraising efforts.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, everybody's going to get T-shirts, by the way, and
Cool.
Hey, babe, we're done.
Yeah, Mike's talking to you. Mike says here. What about your documents? Yes, yes. I mean, I'm about to do whatever you tell me, so. So you're gonna fill us, read for you tomorrow?
yeah, tomorrow. They'll fill that out. So that's the.
Okay, let me,
I did download it.
Oh, right.
No, but I'll keep it.
Okay,
I'll just do it tomorrow. Well, bring me this is an option. Still print on it. But tomorrow, we'll get to see this is full of shot.
Okay, this is just got a generic thing. The dates are, this is 2020.
My ride
So the dates are.
Are you gonna be here at 9 or?
Yeah, I'll be here.
Did I miss the,
Okay.
did I miss the end?
Yeah.
Mike?
Ben, you already got my card, right?
I,
See you in the morning. Somebody talking still?
I
Yeah.
thought I heard someone, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is somebody there? Oh, hi.
Bye.
I must have missed the end. I'm sorry. It
Um,
locked up.
I just prayed for everybody.
Okay.
And how, your mom's doing better?
She is. She's doing better. Hopefully we won't have, hopefully she'll continue to do better. So she's home now, so that's good, out of the hospital.
So I was glad to hear that. And you have a safe drive, okay? Are you
All
gonna,
right, thank you.
You gonna be here tomorrow at church? You gonna make it?
I guess it'll depend on how I feel tonight, but I'll either, I'll be up there for sure on Monday, and I'm gonna try tomorrow. We'll see.
Okay, just connect with me.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I will. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Mike, see you later.
Okay,